having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a really close look at the life and the legend of a true titan of American music, Brian Wilson.
Yeah, we've just been digging into this pretty comprehensive report that really unpacks his extraordinary journey, you know, from that creative explosion in the 60s through some really profound personal struggles, and then this remarkable comeback.
And let's get this out right away because it's important, and it's right there in the source material we looked at. As of today, Monday, June 16th, 2025, Brian Wilson is alive. So this deep dive is absolutely a celebration of his living legacy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's key. So our mission today really is to cut through all the information out there and pull out the essential insights this report offers, kind of a shortcut, you know, to really understanding the man behind some of the most iconic sounds ever.
We're going to explore where his genius came from, the depth of his struggles, and how his pioneering approach didn't just shape music back then, but actually continues to influence artists right now. And this is where it gets really interesting. Let's go right back to the beginning.
Okay. So, Brian Douglas Wilson, born 1942, Inglewood, California. And the report does highlight how his childhood, especially with his father, Murray Wilson, it cast a long shadow. It sounds like a pretty difficult environment.
Yeah, complex is maybe the word.
Yeah.
But even in that, he found this incredible solace, really, in this way to express himself through music. And the source points out, even as a kid, his ear for melody and harmony was just uncanny, obvious.
Yeah.
He wasn't just learning music, he was teaching it. He was like arranging complex vocal parts for his younger brothers, Dennis and Carl, and his cousin Mike Love, when they were all still super young.
And that groundwork, you know, in the family living room, it just blossomed so quickly. The Beach Boys formed in '61. El Jardine joins them, and that initial sound, it was just this perfect, vibrant reflection of Southern California culture. Surf, cars, girls.
The whole scene. And Brian was the engine, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Composing these incredibly infectious songs, often with Mike Love writing lyrics, you know, surfing USA, fun, 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 I get around. They just, boom, blew up.
Absolutely. His falsetto, which was so unique, combined with those really signature layered harmonies he'd been working on since he was a kid, it wasn't just popular. It defined an era. It established what the whole world came to know as the California sound. It just felt so effortless, so new.
Okay, so let's unpack this pivotal moment, mid-'60s. Because Brian's artistic vision, it just suddenly takes this huge leap, way beyond those, you know, catchy surf tunes. The report really emphasizes this is when he mostly stops touring.
Yeah, and that was a massive decision. He was apparently consumed by what other artists, especially the Beatles, were doing in the studio. He was driven, really driven, to push his own art to that same level. He basically became a studio hermit.
And that's when the masterpieces started pouring out. I mean, Pet Sounds in '66 is really not an exaggeration, and the report backs this up. To call it one of the most innovative, most influential records ever. Brian wasn't just the songwriter, he was the architect, the songwriter, arranger, and producer.
And what really jumps out from the report is just the sheer inventiveness in the studio. He treated the studio like another instrument. It wasn't just guitars and drums anymore. He was bringing in, like you said, bicycle bells, harpsichords.
Even dog barks.
Dog barks, exactly. And the theremin, of course. It was all about creating this symphonic, textured pop sound that nobody had really heard before.
Yeah, this incredibly rich sonic tapestry. And it matched perfectly with those intricate harmonies and lyrics that suddenly became so personal, so inward-looking, often co-written with Tony Asher songs like God Only Knows, Wouldn't It Be Nice, Caroline, No. They had this raw emotional vulnerability, such a stark contrast to the earlier stuff.
And the effect on other musicians was, well, immediate. Paul McCartney himself, the source, mentions this, called God Only Knows, one of the greatest songs ever written. So Pet Sounds wasn't just an album, it was this major artistic statement, exploring themes way deeper than surf and cars, losing innocence, spiritual yearning, the real messiness of love.
And then right after that, later in '66, came Good Vibrations, released as a single. The report calls it his pocket symphony, which feels pretty accurate.
Oh, absolutely. And the story behind making it is just fascinating. It was totally unprecedented, took months of recording, hopping between different studios, using up just insane amounts of tape.
Yeah.
And costing an absolute fortune for just one song back then.
The report details how Brian basically pieced it together from dozens of these little musical fragments, things he called feels. It wasn't written in a typical verse-chorus way. It was assembled almost like a collage of sound.
And the result was this structure that was so innovative, those incredible, almost ethereal harmonies, and of course that iconic theremin line. It was a global smash hit, a total landmark in psychedelic pop. And it just cemented Brian's reputation as the studio visionary, someone really pushing the edges of what pop music could be.
So after the huge success of Good Vibrations, Brian immediately set his sights even higher with Smile.
Right. This was meant to be the grand follow-up to Pet Sounds. He famously called it a teenage symphony to God. It was this sprawling, super experimental project designed to completely break musical boundaries.
But, as the report lays out, it just didn't happen. It was abandoned in 1967. The sheer weight of expectation, combined with, increasing drug use and these intensifying mental health struggles, which were later diagnosed as schizoaffective disorder. It all just became too much.
Yeah, the pressure was immense. And the unfinished album, Smile, it became this almost mythical thing in rock history, a symbol of both the absolute peak of his artistic ambition and, unfortunately, the start of a really, really difficult period for him personally, the Great Lost Album.
Thankfully, though, as the source notes, a lot of that amazing material did eventually come out over the years, in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And then, in this really powerful moment, Brian himself went back, re-recorded, and finally completed Smiley in 2004.
Which was huge.
Yeah. It got massive critical acclaim, finally won him a Grammy for it. It felt like, some kind of closure to that whole saga decades later.
But those years right after Smile fell apart, they were incredibly tough. He mostly withdrew from public view, was battling severe anxiety, depression, drug dependency. It was a dark time.
Yeah, the report touches on how his health really suffered visibly then, and his creative work became much more sporadic. And it mentions the 2014 film Love and Mercy as a sensitive look at these struggles, including that really controversial controlling relationship with his therapist, Eugene Landy.
And beyond Brian's own turmoil, the report also gets into the, let's say, complex dynamics within the Beach Boys themselves. It wasn't always smooth sailing.
Oh, definitely not. You can't really talk about the Beach Boys without talking about that creative tension, especially between Brian and his cousin, Mike Love. The report kind of positions Love as vital for that early upbeat sound, right? The lyricist, the front man for those big hits.
Absolutely.
But often clashing with Brian's more experimental avant-garde ideas later on.
For sure. Those creative differences, they definitely led to arguments, even legal fights over songwriting credits down the line. But it's also noted in the report that Mike Love has, despite all that, consistently shown respect for Brian's sheer musical genius.
And his brothers were just fundamental, weren't they? Each in his own way. Dennis Wilson, the drummer, he was the only actual surfer in the band. He brought that kind of raw, authentic energy. And the report mentions he grew into a really talented songwriter, too, writing soulful stuff like Forever.
Yeah, Dennis's life had its own struggles, tragically ending when he drowned in 1983. And then you had Carl Wilson, the youngest brother. He really became this steadying force, especially as Brian pulled back.
Carl took lead vocals on some of their most beautiful songs, like God Only Knows, when Brian started to withdraw. He also stepped up with production duties. The report really underlines how crucial Carl was in just keeping the band going, touring, and recording through some very difficult times, right up until he passed away in 1998.
Absolutely vital. And Al Jardine, the rhythm guitarist, he was another constant, provided those steady vocals, sang lead on big hits like Help Me Rhonda, always there.
And the source even mentions the John Stamos connection, occasionally performing with the band, popping up in videos.
Right. And then there's, well, a darker footnote that the report includes, this sort of tangential connection to Charles Manson.
Yeah, that's unsettling. In the late 60s, Dennis Wilson had this brief, incredibly ill-fated friendship with Manson. The report confirms Dennis introduced him to Brian and others in the music scene. Manson apparently even recorded some stuff at Brian's home studio.
And it got particularly weird and disturbing later when a Manson song, Cease to Exist, was actually reworked and recorded by the Beach Boys as Never Learn Not to Love. That whole association, especially after the horrific Manson family murders, it just cast this really dark shadow over the band's history.
It's such a stark contrast to that sunny image, isn't it? But okay, let's pivot. Because the report also highlights a truly transformative period. Brian's path towards recovery and this vibrant return to music.
And this huge shift is really deeply tied to his relationship and then his marriage to Melinda Ledbetter. They got married in '95, and the report really credits her as just this vital force in his life right up until she sadly passed away in early 2024.
Yeah, she's widely seen as the person who helped him break free from those controlling situations, like with Dr. Landy, and guided him towards getting the proper medical help he needed for his mental health.
And crucially, she encouraged him to get back to music. She was apparently instrumental in getting his solo career going again, getting him back on stage, performing live. Brian himself often called Melinda his savior. He really acknowledged the immense positive impact she had.
And his solo career has been really significant. Finishing Smiley in 2004 was just this massive moment, right? Finally bringing that whole ambitious thing full circle.
Huge. And he's done successful tours since then, really connected with fans again, playing the classics but also new stuff. He's earned a lot of renewed critical acclaim for his later work, too.
It's interesting, the family musical legacy carries on, too. His daughters, Carney and Wendy Wilson, from his first marriage, they had huge success with Wilson Phillips. And Brian and Melinda also built a family, adopting 5 other children together.
And even recent events like that Grammy salute to the Beach Boys in early 2023 where Brian was there, it just underscores that his influence is still incredibly powerful. The report notes how artists across generations were there, paying tribute, performing his songs.
Yeah, you see younger artists now like Marcus King or Gracie Abrams citing the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson specifically as major influences. It shows that sound it really does transcend time.
So if we kind of tie this all together, the report's ultimate point is just the undeniable lasting legacy of Brian Wilson as a true musical visionary.
His pioneering work in the studio, how he used multi-track recording, those incredibly complex arrangements, it completely reshaped how pop and rock music were made, period.
He went so far beyond simple song structures. He crafted these immersive sonic worlds that somehow felt deeply personal, but also universally resonant. You just felt them.
And that ability he had to weave together those complex, beautiful harmonies with intricate melodies and lyrics that actually explored deep ideas.
Yeah.
It just set a completely new standard for album-based rock music. He was really operating on the same artistic level as bands like the Beatles.
Which is exactly why he was inducted, rightly so, into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the Beach Boys back in '88.
And his influence is just everywhere. You can hear traces of it in countless artists across pretty much every genre you can think of. He really proved that pop music could be serious art. That it could express, the deepest human emotions and complex thoughts.
And despite a life that was clearly marked by profound personal struggles, serious mental health challenges, terrible losses, his fundamental drive, his commitment to creating music, it just never really went away.
His melodies, those harmonies, they still resonate so strongly today. They bring so much joy, but also those moments of real, quiet introspection to people all over the world.
It absolutely cements his place, not just as one of America's greatest composers, but as a true artistic visionary. His whole journey, which this report captures so vividly, it's just this powerful testament to creativity, to resilience, and really to the transformative power of music itself.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We've taken this deep dive into the many, many layers of Brian Wilson's story. From those sunny, almost carefree sounds he created early on, to the symphonic, ambitious masterpieces, right through the depths of his personal struggles, and finally, his remarkable return.
Yeah, from teaching harmonies to his brothers in a suburban living room to meticulously building these pocket symphonies piece by piece in the studio, his path was just, unlike anyone else's.
And what's so fascinating when you step back and look at the whole picture, which this report helps you do, is that incredible contrast between the often idyllic world you hear in those early Beach Boys songs and the really complex, sometimes incredibly dark realities Brian was facing personally and within the band's history too.
Yeah, definitely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it sort of raises an interesting question for you to maybe think about next time you listen to his music. How does knowing about the struggles, the effort, the pain that went into making the art, how does that change how you actually hear it?
Does knowing about the painstaking assembly of good vibrations, all those little feels, or the torment that ultimately derailed Smile for decades, does that actually deepen your appreciation for the beauty and the complexity that eventually came out of it all?
His incredible journey, laid out so clearly here, it really serves as this powerful reminder, doesn't it? That even when facing just immense challenges, creativity and sheer resilience can forge this enduring legacy. One that truly echoes through time, keeping those good vibrations alive.
Breaking news from the stadium tonight as an anonymous fan foot the bill for 55,000 hot dogs, bringing that sweet tubed meat to everyone in attendance.
Free dogs! Yeah!
55,000 hot dogs? What does that even cost?
While the identity of this Frankfurter philanthropist remains anonymous, their all-beefy generosity will go down in history.
The new Mega Millions. More to win means more to give. How you spend it is up to you.
Yeah!
For game odds and details, visit sceducationlottery.com.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on chumbacasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at chumbacasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's chumbacasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.